Last week, the world was shocked when the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, was indicted for wire fraud, campaign finance violations, and bribery. If you watch my channel, you know that I'm a conservative. I'm not a fan of Mayor Adams. In fact, I'm really sad to see how much New York has gone downhill under his time as mayor. But I have reviewed the details in his case, and this has got to be one of the most ridiculous indictments I have ever seen. I'm going to show you why I think Mayor Adams is innocent. We have a presidential election coming up in a month. The weaponization of the Department of Justice in America is my number one issue. With all the craziness going on, this is the issue I'm the most concerned about. Republicans have been talking about this for some time, about how the government is rounding people up and prosecuting them based on their politics and not whether they actually did anything wrong. You can look at all the court cases against Trump, the cases against Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, the case against Miles Guo in New York, the case against Rudy Giuliani. All of these are using the courts to attack political opponents. And then we have the weaponization of the FBI, with the targeting of Catholics as terrorists and investigating parents at school board meetings.
They moved to the front door, proceeding to bang and scream, frightening her family.
Mark says, "Please, I have 7 babies in the house. I'm going to open the door." He opens the door, and immediately there's guns pointed at him, a gun pointed at me on the staircase.
During the ensuing chaos, she repeatedly asked the agents to identify themselves and provide documentation as to why they were there.
"Do you have a warrant?" And they said, "Well, we're taking him whether we have a warrant or not." And I said, "Well, you can't do that."
In contrast, you can look at how the Department of Justice is acting friendly on other Democrat cases, like, for example, letting the IRS charges lapse against Hunter Biden or deciding not to prosecute Joe Biden for mishandling classified documents. All of this is unfair and, quite frankly, a little bit scary. We are living in a police state. I thought Democrats were supposed to be the people who cared about protecting civil liberties. Where are the Democrats on this? Because if you don't protect civil liberties for everyone, eventually the government is going to come after you. And that is exactly what we see happening to Mayor Eric Adams. This is a defining moment because the government has now started coming after the Democrats. The news media is plastering headlines that Eric Adams was indicted for corruption. But the news stories are glossing over all the details in the case. And it turns out that the details here are kind of important. I would compare all these unfair trials to the show trials in communist Russia. They would make up fake charges against people and use them to get rid of political opponents. I hope some Democrats start to wake up. They're going to start putting Democrats in prison, just like they've been doing to Republicans all these years. If they can do it to the mayor of New York, they can do it to you. I'm going to walk you through the indictment to show you how ridiculous the allegations are. The time frame of the allegations is important. Here is the first sentence of the indictment. In 2014, Eric Adams, the defendant, became Brooklyn Borough president. Thereafter, for nearly a decade, Adams sought and accepted improper valuable benefits, such as luxury international travel, including from wealthy foreign business people and at least one Turkish government official seeking to gain influence over him. This sums up the allegations against him. The Department of Justice is claiming that Eric Adams received travel benefits specifically from someone in Turkey who was trying to bribe him. We're going to get to the specific charges later, but I want to focus on the time frame. This is a sweeping investigation that goes back to 2014. They are claiming Eric Adams has been a criminal for 10 years. If you stop to think about it, this is a little odd. If this has been going on for 10 years, why are they charging him now, 30 days before a major election? Isn't that strange timing? Could that indicate that this prosecution might be politically motivated? Eric Adams' net worth is around $10 million. Part of this is in real estate. He owns a co-op in Brooklyn worth $1 million and an apartment building in Brooklyn worth $1.2 million. A large portion of his net worth is in his retirement pension. He got his start as a New York police officer for 20 years. The reason Eric Adams' net worth is important is that for a politician, this is a really modest net worth. He doesn't have that much money, and what money he does have is locked up in a couple of pieces of real estate and retirement funds. Remember that the indictment alleges that he was running a criminal enterprise for 10 years. Where's the money? If he was really a crooked mayor and he was taking bribes and stealing money, he would be worth a lot more than $10 million. Where is the money? When I look at Eric Adams' history, I don't see a crook. I see a police officer that worked hard, saved his money, and made some small real estate investments. He's a normal guy living the American dream. He doesn't have the net worth of a criminal. If he had been committing crimes for 10 years and only had a $10 million net worth, he would have to be the world's worst criminal. So what were the actual payments that Eric Adams allegedly accepted? They actually laid them out in the indictment. There are 7 alleged payments totaling $123,000. Does anyone see the problem yet? $123,000? That's it? In terms of political corruption cases, this is the smallest amount I have ever heard being prosecuted. Usually political corruption cases involve amounts in the millions of dollars. $123,000 is an unusually low number. They looked over 10 years of transactions, and this is all they could find? And I doubt the $123,000 amount is actually accurate. Let's just take the first transaction. Free upgrade to business class for 2 on round trip from New York to India. They are alleging that Eric Adams took a plane flight and his seat was upgraded to first class. They are claiming that the first class seat cost $12,000 and therefore Eric Adams took a bribe. I find this explanation to be really silly. How many of you have taken a plane flight and seen someone get a free upgrade to first class? I have. If the airline does not sell that first class seat, they'll take someone and move them up from coach. That does not mean that you just took a bribe. You just got upgraded. If no one was sitting in that first class seat, it really was not worth $12,000, was it? It was worth $0 because no one was sitting in it. All the other 7 transactions are the same thing. These are upgraded travel costs. Eric Adams received upgrades 7 times over a 10-year period. That's less than once per year. With as much as Eric Adams probably travels, that sounds pretty normal to me. So when I look at this chart, I see $0 worth of transactions, not $123,000. In my opinion, if the FBI looked at 10 years of transactions and this is all they could find, Eric Adams must be squeaky clean. One thing I found shocking is there is no explanation of a quid pro quo. To prove bribery, you have to show that someone was going to get something in exchange for the money. That's a quid pro quo. What were these people going to get? Let's assume that the $123,000 of travel upgrades was a bribe. What did they get? The indictment states that Eric Adams accepted free and heavily discounted luxury travel benefits from the Turkish official and others in exchange for intending to be influenced in connection with the City of New York's regulation of the Turkish house. They tell this story, that the Turkish consulate opened a new building in New York called the Turkish House on September 20th, 2021. They finished construction and had to pass a fire inspection before people could use the building. On September 9th, the fire department reviewed the fire alarm system and had some concerns. The next day, on September 10th, the fire department approved the permit. The indictment claims that the permit was issued solely because Eric Adams pressured them to do it because of the bribes. I find that really unbelievable. You're telling me that someone in Turkey spent 10 years giving Eric Adams travel upgrades with the intention that he would expedite a permit to open this one building. That is ridiculous. No one would do that. It seems to be much more likely that the fire department found some concerns and then spent 24 hours addressing those concerns before they issued a permit. Isn't that exactly what is supposed to happen? As far as the mayor pressuring the fire department, isn't the mayor supposed to encourage all city departments to issue permits as quickly as possible? It seems to me that everyone in this situation was actually just doing their jobs. This is the whole allegation in the indictment. There is no other quid pro quo suggested. So if that's the only allegation, and it's extremely unbelievable, then there is no crime. The other thing you have to prove in bribery is intent. Eric Adams had to know about the crimes. This is usually done by presenting emails showing people's state of mind, but in this case, there is nothing. How did Eric Adams know that his airline seat upgrade was given in exchange to expedite building permits years into the future? I see no evidence that he knew that. In fact, the indictment does not allege any conversations even took place with Eric Adams. Conversations with the people in Turkey always happened with Eric Adams' staff members. So Eric Adams did not even talk to these people. Specifically, the indictment refers to someone they call Adams' staffer. The Adams staffer accompanied Adams on his 2015 travel to Turkey and later, at Adams' direction, coordinated many of the illegal campaign contributions and improper personal travel benefits relevant to this indictment. So this sounds to me like they have a witness. It sounds like someone on the City Hall staff was doing something maybe a little shady, and they got caught. And now they're pointing fingers at Eric Adams to try to get out of it. That doesn't sound very credible to me. Other than this one witness, there is no evidence presented that Eric Adams even knew about this. If all we have to go on is the word of this mysterious witness, it turns into a he said, they said situation. This reminds me of the case against Trump, where Michael Cohen testified against Trump claiming that Trump committed campaign fraud. The truth was that Michael Cohen was convicted of committing perjury. It is possible that Eric Adams had someone shady working for him, just like Michael Cohen worked for Trump. I don't believe that Eric Adams knew about any of this. If the prosecution cannot prove that Eric Adams had specific knowledge and intent that the 7 travel upgrades were a quid pro quo for the building permits, then there is no crime. You cannot have a crime without intent. Remember that this is a criminal trial. So the prosecution has to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. If there is significant doubt in your mind, the jury cannot convict. With the information I have just laid out for you, there's a lot of doubt in my mind. It sounds to me like this is just a fake political persecution by the Department of Justice against Eric Adams. Now, of course, we have seen that the courts in New York do not always create logical outcomes. In the criminal case against Trump, he was declared guilty, even though most legal experts think he will win on appeal. In Trump's case, it appears there was a crooked judge and a biased jury. So anything could happen to Eric Adams. But if truth and justice prevail, I did not find anything in this indictment that would convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. So the question then becomes, what is the motive for the Department of Justice? Why would they make up a fake case against Eric Adams? Eric Adams is a star in the Democrat Party. Why would the Department of Justice create a smear campaign against a Democrat? This part is wild. They actually wrote their motive into the indictment. I broke out laughing when I read this. I can't believe it. The businessman agreed to contribute, believing that Adams might one day be the president of of the United States. Eric Adams is a Democrat frontrunner for President of the United States in 4 years. This is a good-looking, well-spoken black man from New York, and he could be our next president. This indictment was a hit piece to take out competition within the Democrat Party. Eric Adams has been a vocal critic of the Biden administration. Let me show you what Eric Adams said about the migrant crisis.
We're getting no support on this national crisis, and we're receiving no support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month.
He actually sounds like a really nice guy. This is the one Democrat who cares about solving the migrant crisis. But Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't like that. This case is payback against Eric Adams. I found this indictment to be so poorly written with such flimsy evidence that it had to have been written with bad faith. This is what malicious prosecution looks like. Compare this case with other real bribery cases. You have the Biden crime family. You have Hunter Biden smoking crack, with multiple shell companies receiving checks from China, with actual payments going into Joe Biden's bank account. That's what bribery looks like. We just had the case with Senator Bob Menendez, where he was receiving $100,000 of bars of gold as gifts, as well as $480,000 of cash inside his home. That is what bribery looks like. It's not about having an upgrade to your plane seat. I hope that the Democrats wake up. The government is being weaponized against you. They're going to throw you in jail just like they've been doing it to the Republicans. If Eric Adams was smart, he would unite with other Democrats and start supporting Donald Trump for president, because he is the only one who's going to stop all these malicious prosecutions, and he's going to clean up the Department of Justice. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think that Eric Adams is innocent? Go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you like these videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. If you find these videos helpful, consider signing up to become a channel member on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, your support helps me to keep making these videos. Like many other conservative channels on YouTube, a lot of my videos have been censored and demonetized. The only way I can tell these stories is through your support. So a big thank you to everyone who has signed up. I'm Zach from Wolves in Finance. Thank you for watching.